The meeting was meant to be a simple farewell, a gold watch, a polite speech, and a handshake for a man who'd spent 40 years in the mailroom, Mr. Hale. He was the kind of person you saw every day but never really noticed. Quiet, unassuming, always with a polite nod. The CEO cleared his throat, ready to deliver a generic speech about loyalty and dedication. He thought he knew everything about his company, every success, every failure, every significant event. But he was about to learn that the most important story had been kept a secret for decades. As he prepared to speak, a woman from HR, someone who'd been with the company almost as long as Mr. Hale, approached him nervously. She leaned in, her voice barely a whisper, as if sharing a sacred confidence. "Before you give that speech, sir," she began, her eyes filled with a mixture of reverence and urgency, "there's something you really should know about Mr. Hale, something that isn't in any file." The CEO, slightly annoyed by the interruption, motioned for her to continue, expecting some minor anecdote. He had no idea that her next words would completely shatter his perception of the quiet man in the mailroom and the very foundation of the company he thought he'd built. The story she told was from years ago, a forgotten Tuesday afternoon. A faulty wire in the basement storage room sparked. It was a small beginning to what could have been a catastrophic end. The spark caught on a stack of old cardboard boxes, and a tiny flame quickly grew into a hungry fire. Thick, acrid smoke began to pour from the corner, filling the windowless room. It was a disaster waiting to happen, a silent threat growing right beneath everyone's feet. The building's state-of-the-art fire alarm system, the one the company had spent a fortune on, had a glitch. A 1 in a million malfunction? It remained silent. On the floors above, hundreds of employees were typing away, making calls, completely oblivious to the danger lurking below. The sprinklers hadn't triggered yet. No alarms were ringing. No one knew. No one except for one man. Mr. Hale was on his usual mail run, pushing his cart down a quiet hallway near the basement stairs. He wasn't a hero, just a mail clerk. But he had a keen sense of smell, and he caught the faintest whiff of something burning. It was different from the usual scent of coffee or toner. It was the smell of trouble. While others might have dismissed it, Mr. Hale trusted his instincts. He left his cart and followed the scent, his pace quickening as it grew stronger. It led him to the basement door. When he opened it, a wave of thick black smoke billowed out, stinging his eyes and catching in his throat. He didn't hesitate. He didn't run to pull a manual alarm or scream for help. He knew time was critical. He saw the orange glow of the flames devouring a corner of the storage room, inching dangerously close to a wall of archived financial records, the entire history of the company. In that moment, Mr. Hale wasn't just a mail clerk. He was the first and only line of defense. He remembered the safety training from years ago, the location of the fire extinguishers. He grabbed the first one he could find, pulled the pin, and charged into the smoky chaos. The heat was intense, and the smoke was suffocating, but he aimed the nozzle at the base of the fire and squeezed. A blast of white foam shot out, momentarily beating back the flames. But the fire was stubborn, it roared back. He emptied the first extinguisher and ran for another. He fought that fire alone for what felt like an eternity. He was coughing, his eyes streaming, his lungs burning. He grabbed a third extinguisher, his arms aching from the effort. It was a solitary, desperate battle against an enemy that threatened to consume everything. He wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about the building, the people upstairs. Finally, someone else who'd smelled the smoke from a different stairwell called the fire department. By the time the firefighters arrived, geared up and ready for a major blaze, they found a smoke-filled basement and a nearly extinguished fire. And there, covered in soot and foam, was Mr. Hale, leaning against a wall, exhausted but resolute. He had contained the disaster. He had saved the building. He had saved every single job within it. The fire chief was amazed. He'd single-handedly prevented what would have been a multi-million-dollar catastrophe. When the chaos died down, an investigation was launched. The faulty alarm was discovered. Management was relieved, but also embarrassed. They focused on fixing the system. And amidst all that, Mr. Hale's heroic act was somehow overlooked. The CEO stood there, stunned, listening to the HR woman's story. The gold watch in his hand suddenly felt cheap and meaningless. "He never filed a report?" the CEO asked, his voice cracking with disbelief. "He never asked for a reward? No recognition? Why didn't he say anything? Why didn't anyone tell me?" The woman from HR offered a soft, knowing smile. "Oh, we asked him," she replied, "right after it happened. The fire chief wanted to give him a commendation. We wanted to hold a ceremony. He refused all of it." The CEO was baffled. In his world, achievements were broadcast, successes were rewarded. Why would someone turn down the recognition he so clearly deserved? The HR woman's next words struck him like a physical blow. She recalled what Mr. Hale had said to her all those years ago when she pressed him about it. He had just shrugged in his quiet, humble way and said, "If the building stands, people keep their jobs. My job, your job, everyone's job. That's enough for me." That was his reward. The simple continuation of normalcy for everyone else. The CEO's eyes welled up. He looked across the room at the old man in the ill-fitting suit who was looking down at his shoes, probably embarrassed by all the attention. This whole time, for 40 years, a hero had been walking among them, completely unseen. He wasn't just a male clerk. He was the silent guardian of their livelihoods. He was the man who saved the company and asked for nothing in return. The CEO whispered, more to himself than to anyone else, "My God. I've been running this company for 20 years and I never even saw the hero standing right in front of me." He tossed the generic speech onto the table. It was useless now. He walked over to Mr. Hale, not as a CEO to an employee, but as one man to another, with a newfound and profound respect. He didn't have a plaque or a grand prize to offer. All he had was the truth. And in front of everyone, he began to tell the story of the night a quiet male clerk saved them all, ensuring that this time the hero would not go unnoticed. This was the story that mattered, the one that truly defined a legacy of loyalty and dedication, far more than any gold watch ever could. Sometimes the greatest contributions are the ones made in silence, and the truest heroes are the ones who never seek the spotlight. Thank you for watching. Remember to look for the heroes in your own life. They might be closer than you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire.